Okay, everybody hear me back there? This is an introductory to DCS. I'm going to go over the DCS system and what it can do. DCS is a digital command system that you can run multiple trains on the same track system. Our system is a bi-directional system, meaning the engines receive the command and then actually responds back to that they got the command, or they can give feedback. It could be how many miles they traveled, how many hours they traveled. For maintenance purposes, there's a maintenance thing in there. So there's a lot of reasons for going bi-directional. We call these smart trains. They know who they are. They know their gear ratio. All proto-sound 2, proto-sound 3 engines know their gear ratio, wheel diameter, so they can run at exact speeds. And each engine has speed control. Now, DCS was developed because I wanted to have a system that kids could talk to through the remote, and they could come out, broadcast out of the train, or they could record Christmas music or whatever other music they wanted out of the engines. Because I had a train running around, an MTH train running around our Christmas tree, and every time a company would come over, my wife would say, turn the train off, it's too noisy. It's just chug, 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 going around the Christmas tree. So I said, if we could play music out of it, and it would be, keeping with the theme. So we set off to do that, and the engineer said, what you're trying to do is impossible in the model railroad with all the track noise, with the roller bouncing on the track. It's just not possible. And finally, I found an engineering firm that was able to do it, and it's really high-speed communication. It uses the proto-sound 2, proto-sound 3 boards have a DSP, which is a Texas Instruments processor, which is the same processor in the cell phone. So what we are doing is a high-speed digital commands down the rail and mixed in with the power at the zero crossing. So it's getting a little technical, but at the either AC or DC waveform, there's a period of time that there's no power at all, and we shoot the signal through that power. So and it goes back and forth in a bi-directional manner. In the DCS system, we also wanted to make it very simple, and by not broadcasting radio waves, Rhino Systems is actually like a radio frequency around the train. And in this system, there is no frequency. We want it to be simple and easy for the customers to hook up. So it starts with, the DCS system comes with the TIU, and I'm going to go over the TIU as far as the inputs on it and outputs on it, and the handheld. Now, later this year, early next year, we're going to be coming out with the Wi-Fi. That's a separate issue, and I'll touch on it at the end of this talk, but to replace the handheld. Also, there's an accessory, we call it an AIU box, that can plug into the TIU. And an AIU can control 10 switches and 10 accessories. And it's really a glorified, I call it a glorified bank relays. And now you can turn on anything that up to 10 amps. So you can turn on a coffee maker. There's a video out there that OGR did that you could take your handheld, load it in coffee maker, and turn it on and off with this. So anything you can turn on with a relay, and you can hook up multiple accessories and multiple switches onto this AIU on each channel, up to 10 amps it's rated. So there's all your lights on your layout, and on a small layout, you can put it all there, hit lights, and turn them off and on. And all that will be able to be done through the handheld. I'll get back to you can put up to 5 AIUs on every TIU, so you can have 50 switches and 50 accessories, and again, each one you can run put multiple switches on one AIU out or switch output, so it can become big. Now, one handheld, you can run 5 different TIUs, or separate TIUs addresses. So then you can see 250 switches, 250 accessories, and if you have more than that, let me know. I want to see that later. On the TIU, what you'll notice here is there's 4 channels, and there are 4 independent channels. There's input and an output, output. And each channel is individual power can go through it. They're not tied together. Only the grounds are tied together, but the power, there's 10 amps rating for each channel. And so if you have 4 loops of track, you can put that, you can use all 4, but most people don't use even 4. you can put 2 loops of track on one as long as the power which you're drawing power-wise is less than 10 amps. So the power is the limiter. On the TIU, the 2 middle ones are what we call fixed, and they say right on there, fixed inputs and outputs. So literally what's happening is you take, if you have a transformer on your track, hopefully a Z4000, Z1000, transformer goes to your track right now, and you have a controller. You're just going to cut those wires and put the input in the inside and the output on the outside. On the fixed channels, all that's happening is we're adding a digital signal to the power. So it just flows right through, and we throw a digital signal onto it. So you can have a transformer on one side, and if you control the voltage, it's just controlling right through the fixed side. The variable sides, which are the top and the bottom one here, as I'm holding the thing, you put 18, 20 volts in, and then you vary with the remote control how many volts come out. So you hook it up on the input, and you need to measure it with a meter, it will be 0 until you get the remote control and call up the track, because now we call this the track, and this is how you run conventional engines. Put 18 volts in, I call up the track, I name the track, so it's my main line for instance, call up the main line, scroll the wheel up, and now you're scrolling the voltage up. So now you're running conventional engines. So this system runs conventional engines, DCS engines, and I'll get into it with one of the connections. You can run the Lionel TMCC engines. So pretty much everything out there that's out on the market now, you can run through this system. Right, so again, there's fuses inside that if you overload it, it will pop. They're like automotive fuses, the same press-in fuses. There's 6 screws on the bottom, open up, just change the fuses, so it's easy for us to maintain. At the end of the DCS system, there's an auxiliary power. Now there's 2 ways to power up. This thing needs power to power the processor. There's 2 ways to do it. The simple way is on a fixed one channel, you put power in there. It also powers the TIU. You don't need to do anything else. There's also another option. You put a barrel jack you can take that's more power than you need, but you can take a Z500, Z1000, or a wall plug transformer that we sell, plug into there, and then it powers the TIU. Now, the reason to do that is if you have a layout, like say at in a hobby shop, or a layout, there's been like Pittsburgh Steelers had a store that we put this thing in. And what we did is we took we powered the DCS system the whole time. It's always powered. You don't want the transformer power to be running all the time overnight, right? So you want to turn the transformer off. What happens, what you do in that situation is you get a timer on your transformers, and the timer on the Pittsburgh Steelers store would come on at 9 o'clock, and that would allow the power to go through the system, and this would always be powered. And the way to always power it is with this fixed power. And then there is a loop, and I'll talk about that in the features. There's a loop system that will continue to play the recording that you recorded, so their train would start up under this glass case. None of the employees had to know how to start the train up. The timer turned on at 9 o'clock, the train started up, it started going around, it would blow the whistle, ring the bell, everything automatic, all recorded as they did it, and now the customers couldn't come in and none of the people have. Now, for you guys, you can do these recordings or same type of thing. Turn on the transformers, and the trains would all start up by themselves and run by themselves. You can have your buddies over, have a beer, and the trains are doing different things, going different speeds that you programmed. And I'll show you how to do that in this talk. So anyway, that's the purpose for the auxiliary power. The next one is an we call RS-232 input, which is the name of the connector. And there's a couple purposes for this. This system is upgradable. So if you bought this system today, we have upgrade software on the internet that will make an email announcement, join our e-newsletter, and you'll be notified that there's new software available. You simply download that new software. There's a loader program it's all free on our internet. You download that, it'll put a little DCS icon on your computer, and then you will be able to download the software, and it gives you step-by-step instructions on the loader program. There's a little instruction pops up on the screen. You just follow the step-by-step instructions, and through this cable, you will get a cable like this, either this way or two RS-232 cables. Plug that in, plug this into your PC, and then you can download the new software for the TIU and the handheld. You can also download, like say the J, for example. We come out with another version of the J, and it has a station announcement with the city stops that you like. You can download the new sound file and then upload it into your engine. So the whole system is upgradable. There's flash memory in this, there's flash memory in the remote, and there's flash memory in the train. So if you buy this system today, don't worry about the first TIUs that we made. We know we don't want to make them obsolete. They're totally upgradable. You can upgrade them with the software. So even when the app comes out and the new software comes out for that, you can plug in the app module, the Wi-Fi module to the TIU, and you're up and running. The other purpose for this RS-232 port is we sell a cable that is the TIU to TMCC cable. And this also does the legacy boxes. Lionel has had the TMCC box and the legacy box. You plug that cable into the TIU, plug it into the legacy box. Now what happens is when you add an engine to the remote, and it doesn't find it itself, ours, and I'll go over that, how the engine adds. But the TMCC engine, you can load it in. It only has one-way communication, so we like to say they're the dumb engines. They don't know who they are, so you got to tell them who they are. So you tell them who they are, you put it into the remote, and then it will, when you send a command to the TIU, it goes through the cable to the TMCC box, and the TMCC box still broadcasts the Lionel command and runs the Lionel engine. So those are the two purposes for this RS-232. There's a remote input that you can tether your remote. That if you're at a show, we do it for when we're at shows a lot, and you don't want somebody to take them and hook up the RF and talk to our trains on our layout, you can plug it in and go direct. Also, you want to plug it in direct when you're doing upgrades, so that you don't lose any of the data on the upgrade. There's a lot of information, so you plug in your remote there. On the bottom of the remote, you'll see it's a telephone jack, the handheld on your telephone. So you just steal that off your telephone at home if you still have a home telephone, plug it into there, plug it into the TIU, and then you can upgrade the remote that way. On the opposite end, we have what's called proto-dispatch here. That's to plug in a microphone like this. You can plug it into here. You can make a recording. You can have your grandkids sing happy birthday to your wife. You can run your train and then play that recording out. And they're talking through the train, and watch their eyes, and young enough, watch their eyes when they see their voices coming out of that train. It's really a cool feature. You can also go get recordings of a real train, or a real crossing, or a real horn, and then you can record it, put it into this TIU as a custom sound, and play it out anytime that you want. The middle one is for the AIU input. Each AIU comes with a cable that you'll plug into the TIU, and as I said, you can daisy chain up to 5 AIUs for each TIU, so there's a plug for that. The other side is what we call proto-cast. Proto-cast is really the feature that the DCS was started for, and that's to play music through it, or you can talk through the remote, but you can play music through it. You can take your iPhone, iPad, or any of the other a CD player, cassette player if you still have those. You take it out of the headphone jack, you plug it into the TIU, and whatever you're playing out of that, you push on the remote the proto-cast button here, and whatever train you're currently talking to will play that song out of the train. That's for the TIU. Now the handheld. The handheld, we like to say it was ergonomically designed at the time, so it's very easy. You can run the train with one hand. At the most used buttons, circle the thumb wheel. The thumb wheel is really to scroll up and down through menus, scroll up your speed. On the outside, you got the whistle button, the bell button, and your engine button in the top circle around the thumb wheel. The engine button, the whistle and the bell are self-explanatory. The engine button, you push the engine button, you can have 100 different engines on the track that you can load into the system. There's menu, and you can scroll up and down, find the engines that you want, and you select the engine that you want, and you're up and running. There's also a neat feature that if you have 100 engines and you only got them 2 on the track, you don't want to scroll up through and down through 100 engines. So there's a read button on this remote that you read the engines, and the 2 engines that are in your 100 engines in the remote will pop up to the top of the line, and everything will be below the line. That way, when you hit the engine button, you're just scrolling up and down through 2 engines. So it makes it a lot easier. Then you got a menu, and in the menu, there's a sound menu. You got, let me start this engine up here just to give you a little quick demonstration. Okay, you get the sound menu. You can go and say, take the engine sounds. And you scroll up and you'll see 10 to 100. You can hear the sound going up, that's full volume. Now I can scroll down 90, 80, 70, 60, and you can hear it. And it's when it's at the level you want, down to 30, 20, 10. And I say, okay, I want it quiet for this demonstration. I select 10. Now it's set there. Now it's set in the engine. The engine saves that information. It's not in the remote, it saves in the engine. So if I pick up this engine now and take it to a conventional layout, that's the sound volume. It's going to save it in the engine unless you do a factory reset. Now what you just heard, the talking, that's another one, is accent sound, and that's independent. And you can go and take the accent volume, and now I got it 40, 50, 60, 70. Next time it talks, it's going to be a lot louder. So you can independently set the sound volume. And the same with the whistle, and the same with the bell volume. So you can independently change all those volumes. You also have a volume control up and down on the remote, and that's all 4 of those individual sound tracks up and down 10% every time you push the button. So you can do them all at once or all independently. The next menu is the control menu. You can change the smoke volume from minimum, medium, and maximum. So if you smoke, a lot of people complain that our engines smoke too much, set off their fire alarms. You can take and you can set the smoke volume to whatever you want. The next one is ditch lights, and the ditch lights you can turn them off if you don't like them flashing. You can put them on automatic, is what they're set out at the factory. That means when you blow the horn, the ditch lights start to flash for about 10 seconds after you let the horn go, just like the real one does. Or you can put them on and let them flash all the time. Kids like that. They just let them flash all the time. So you can set the ditch lights. You can set the maximum speed of these engines. So you can take it, if you have a real young kid, it has to be really young, you can take them and set the maximum speed to 30 miles per hour. Because the reason I say that is because once they get to be 3 or 4 years old, they're going to know how to use this better than you do. They're going to be able to go in and raise up that maximum speed. You have an acceleration rate and a deceleration rate. And so that means if you have a child or an adult that spins, or a friend that spins this thing up too fast, it will gradually go up. The other reason to have the acceleration rate adjustment is if you have a really long train, 100 and some cars on a curve, if you scroll up too fast, as you know, when you put track power up too much, you tip the cars over. So even if someone makes a mistake and scrolls it up, this thing will say, no, the acceleration rate is very gradual, so you can scroll up really fast to 50 and it'll take a long time before it gets up there. So you can change the acceleration to deceleration rate. The next one is your systems menu. Systems menu is where you're going to add engines. You can add an engine, and simply to add an MTH engine, you push add engine, and then it says add an MTH engine or a TMCC engine. And this is, if you add an MTH, you simply select that, it goes out, it finds the engine. All the information from that engine is loaded into the remote, and that means it's all the features. So you don't, for a diesel engine, you won't have chuff rate because there's no chuffing in there. So all the features that we put in that engine come into the remote. The name of the engine comes into the remote. Usually the cab number comes in, and then it'll say, okay, congratulations, you added an MTH engine. You hit start up and you're ready to go. The TMCC engine is a little bit more difficult. You add the TMCC engine, and then it gives you the alphabet, and then you got to select the letters and name that engine. And you can also have numbers, and you can put the cab number. Then you save that, and then the next available engine number will have a TMCC engine. Now, the remote, now it knows it's a TMCC engine, so it's a name of SD45, and there's your MTH SD45 or the Lionel SD45. it doesn't matter. Now you've already identified as TMCC. So when you call that engine up and hit startup, that TMCC engine will start up, and so there's no difference after you set it up to running it. So once it's set up. In the engine system menu, you can delete an engine. If you get sold an engine, you can delete it out of your menu. You can edit its name. If you don't like the name we assigned to it at the factory, you can put your own name onto it. It could be this one is Johnny's engine, this one's Tom's engine. You can put Tom's SD45, John's SD45, so you have two of the same engines. There's a track setup. You can add the tracks. Now the tracks is the name of the variable channels. Keep in mind, whenever we talk track, and there's a track button on the remote, that is for your conventional variable channels. You're talking to a variable channel. So you can delete tracks, you can edit the names of the tracks. Also in the system menu, you have switch setups and accessory setups. That's where you're going to, when you wire up the AIU, and on the end of the AIU, you'll see accessory 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10, and switches up to 10. That's where you'll tell the remote where the wire is located for that switch. And so you got the mainline switch 2, and you want to call it that, whatever you're used to calling your switches. And I like to name them by what building they're near or where they are in the room, so that when I visually look over to it, I know what the name of that switch is. So I name the switch, and then I tell it where it is wired in the AIU and which TIU it's wired to. So you could have 5 TIUs, so you'd say what TIU, TIU number 1, what AIU, the first one wired, AIU number 1, and what port, accessory number 2 or switch number 2. And then once you do that, now it knows the path. Now when you call up that switch and hit the switch button and see the name of the switch, you sit there right, left. It'll have a right and a left. And so it's really quick and simple. The name of the switch, right, left, and you're using the switch there. A lot of people, they get the DCS system not really aware of the AIU system, and I'm a big advocate of the AIU because now you can control your whole layout, and then you can start making macros and adding multiple switches, saying switch 1 go right, switch 2 go left, and program accessories. This side of the layout turn on at this point in time, and do all of these macros, and then hit play. And all that's going to take the trains, it can uncouple a set of cars in the siding, then flip the switch and pull the train out. You say train 1 to the main line, and that will be your looped name. And it will literally start that engine up, flip the switches you need, drive it out to the main line, and get it to where it goes. So that by interconnecting the whole system, including the AIU with the switches and accessory, has a big advantage. You can get multiple remotes, and so there's multiple remotes addresses that you can set up. Multiple TIUs. Again, you have to, if you have 2 TIUs, you must change the address on the second TIU. And they come from the factory's TIU 1. So you'll go in here, you go to TIU setup, and you'll edit the address, and you'll change the address of the second TIU to TIU number 2, and now there's not going to be cross-talking. So if I send a message in the query TIU number, an engine that's on the TIU number 1, and you have 2, they'll both respond back and it'll crash it. So you got to name the different ones. You got multiple remotes. You got to give them their own addresses. There's a reset to TIU. There's one that you can query the version. If there's a new update come out, you can't remember what version you have, you can query the version. That's all in the advanced setup. After that, that's the menu button. Then you got the direction button. And then up here, the semicircle gray buttons, that's the track button. We talked about that. That's your variable channels. You call up the track, and that's where you're going to run your conventional engines. Those variable outputs, they also have digital signals on them. So you can call up the variable track, scroll up the speed, run your conventional engine. Then, if the track's big enough and you have it wrecked by now, then call up the digital engine and control the speed of the digital engine away from the variable engine. And you can run a conventional engine on the same track with a command engine. That's either the Lionel TMCC command engine or the MTH engine. You got your switch buttons. We talked about that, the accessory buttons. And we have an auxiliary button, and it's for future features. Future features, GPS, that type of thing. We left the button there for future features, so that right now the auxiliary doesn't have anything. There's a microphone button here. That's where you can take and talk through the train. I know a lot of you never admit that you're talking to your trains but you can do that. You get a child, I'd love to do this, they get going on a show, you pull the engine, his eyes are up there looking at this thing, you're in the back corner, and you stop the train, and like the engineer's talking to him, hey, you want to come up, jump aboard with me, and his eyes get big as all, and he's looking at his mom, the engineer's talking to me. So it's a lot of fun if you have young kids, grandkids, to use the mic button. There's a backlight that you can light up the screen if you're in a dark environment. The 5 buttons up here we call soft keys. Soft keys, there's right above them in the screen, there's 3-letter acronyms. And there's S ones for sound, L's for lights, and D for, let's see, information query. Odometer reading, I just checked this, has 0.7 miles on it. Since we turned power on, you can check how many miles it's run, that type of thing. What I like to do, there's also then a right arrow. And you take the right arrow and you go through until it says more. Because I can never remember the 3 acronyms. So you go to more, and now you have the listing of actual what the features are. So this particular engine, for example, you have things like a coupler slack. You can set that, and when you pull the engine away, you pull the slack of the train, like prototypically. You can set that, or you can one-shot that. Each engine has multiple engine sounds. I often say to people, without DCS, you only get about 70% of the features, your hearings on the train itself, because there's things like train wrecks in these trains. With conventional, you'll never hear that. You can go to these engine sounds like water, filling the water up in the tender, and they have special sounds in there that you can call up, and so you can do those sounds. Sound 1 could be that. We change them up all the time, so each different engine has different engine sounds. Ditch lights, interior lights, turn on and off, idle sounds, forward signals, short whistle blast signals, those are in there. You're not utilizing those in conventional mode. Reverse signal, crossing signals, you're going to a crossing, they have those in there that you're not using in regular. Turn your number boards off, the train wrecks, which I talked about, odometer. You can take any MTH engine, check the odometer, see how many miles it has on it. There's a chronometer, how many hours it has on it, and it's a neat feature for maintenance. A guy says, I bought this, it's brand new, never ran around the track, and we can query the thing and find out it has 300 miles on it, so it stores it within the engine. You can't reset those things. You have extended startup, extended shutdowns, you can play those. More idle sounds, clickety-clack. Clickety-clack's a neat feature. Right now the engines, you got 4 or 5 engines running around the track. And you set a couple of them to clickety-clack. And clickety-clack, after 30 miles per hour, and it's been running in 30 miles per hour for 30 seconds, and you have that turned on in that engine, then you'll hear the dunk, the dunk, the dunk, the dunk sound of it. So it breaks up the sound, because if you have 4 diesels running, it's so noisy, just diesel sounds overwhelming. So set a few up as clickety-clack, so when the train comes by, you hear the dunk, and then you'll hear other things like passing trains. When it's in that mode, there's other sounds that'll play at the same time. Passing trains, if it's a passenger train, there are people ordering food on the car, that type of thing. So there's other sounds embedded in that clickety-clack. Track signal, that's another neat feature requiring bi-directional. Track signal, you can query this engine when you're building a layout, and it'll tell you signal 1 through 10. So I can literally drive this to every piece of track and see if it has a good signal. If the signal drops, I can run a feed there, or if the track's dirty, so it can check your track out. The other thing it can check is it has you can check the voltage, and you can drive the train around to see if you have a voltage drop. So in the back corner of the layout, if the voltage drops down, it's actually reading the voltage on the track. It drops, you can run a line out there, and so you can fix your track or find out if it's dirty. I got a trip odometer, so if we just start the thing up and we want to measure how long in scale miles our track is, and believe me, these trains literally know in 1/48 scale the scale miles. So if it says 80 scale miles that you ran, to the quarter inch to the foot, it is 80 scale miles. They close the coupler. There's cab chatter, legacy mode. You can turn off the speed control, and then the last one is maintenance. You can set this maintenance up to notify you at how many miles before you want to remind yourself to oil it, because you may have oiled it last year, but I never ran it. So at every 100 miles, every 150 miles, it will pop up and say maintenance required on this train. So you can oil it, and then you can go into the maintenance on that engine, reset it, and then the next 100 miles, it'll notify you again. Okay, so those are the each individual engine features that you can access from the remote. You have on the bottom buttons, the smoke on and off. You have let me go on these rockers first. First rocker is on this side is the couplers, front coupler, rear coupler. You can open the automatic couplers that way. You have in the middle the boost and the brake. You can push on the boost and the train will keep speeding up until you let go, and then it will slow back down, and the brake same way. Rev up and rev down, or labor chuck up and down, which is a really cool feature. Each one of these diesel engines have 8 different rev levels. When a real train has 100 cars on it, the engineer's got to raise up the power and raise up the rev level of that engine to get it started, to be able to get the inertia to pull that thing. So you can prototypically take this, put 100 cars on there, rev the thing up to the 8th rev level like it would really be working hard. Not only does the sound level go up, but also the smoke level goes up. So you can, if you want to show somebody how much smoke this thing can put out, you rev it up to rev level 8, and it's pouring the smoke out. And now it sounds like it's really working hard. Do the coupler slack, take off. It's really cool that way. I mean, we're just not used to running, but you can get it more and more prototypical. For the steam engine, instead of revving it up, it's labor chuck. So I push that button, and now the engine sounds like it's working real hard. Not only does it sound like it's working real hard, but the smoke volume goes up. And the drift, the opposite. It sounds like it's working not as hard, and the smoke level will go down. So you got those for the rockers. Now the buttons, you got the smoke on and off, you got volume up and down, start up and shut down, starting up. When an engine, right now there's track power onto this thing, I hit start up, and then the sound start up, the lights start up, and the smoke will start up. And I have the engine volume way down on this engine. And then hit shut down and it shuts it off. The engine sounds on and off, you can do that. The other thing is a cool feature. In the engine button, when you call up the engine, there's an all button. I like the all button. You can take and hit all. Now, all the engines on your track are gonna, everything that's loaded on your remote that's active, and you hit all and you scroll up the speed, all the engines will take off at the same speed. So if you've ever been in the digital world and you have 5 engines on the track, and it's a small loop like this, it's really difficult unless you start off 2 miles an hour, 2 miles an hour, 2 miles, but you got to go to each engine to call up the speed. And this, hit all, start up, they all start up, scroll up the speed, they're all going the same speed. So I can take 5 engines and run them on this layout in all. The other neat thing is, you want to make a lot of noise. Kids like this. I like it too. You take the 5 engines you're running, and I'm down at the hobby shop down in Florida. I go to in wintertime on a Saturday, and I tease them. I get the things, all the trains running, and I hit the all button, I hit the whistle button. And it is really loud, and everybody's looking around, what is going on? Or you get all bells. Or telephone rings in your house, all your trains are running. You want to answer the phone, you hit all mute, and all the sounds go off on all your trains. Or all scroll down, stop it. Your wife calls, if you want, you might want to turn them all on and raise up the volume. You've got the headlights, you can turn the headlights on and off, the protocast, the passenger station announcements. The neat thing about this, passenger station announcements, normally with a conventional transformer, you activate it, you got to wait till all 4 sequences go through, and then you can go back regular mode. This one, you can push the button on, passenger station announcement. If you don't want to watch the whole sequence, push it off, and it's off. The read button, again, if you have 100 engines in your remote, hit the read button, and 3 are on the track, the 3 will come up. Doppler sound. Doppler sound's a really neat feature. You can go in here in the sound menu and set up a Doppler loop. And a Doppler loop is basically taking a spot on this layout, and if you want to be a perfectionist, you can put a piece of tape on here and measure it right to that pilot. Now, all the people are standing here, and let's say this is a big layout. You got to imagine this. And you start the Doppler loop here, and you say start. On the Doppler loop, you'll select start, and this engine will drive around. Now it's measuring the track. And it can come back to that point. I drive the engine back to that point, I hit stop, and I set the Doppler loop. Then I hit go. Now the engine will take off. Its loudest point will be right here. So let me start this. I'll set a Doppler loop for it. I'll turn the volume back on. Now, I'm not going to be very precise. I'm just going to put it here, and it'll start to shift because it knows the exact thing. So I hit beginning. I'm going to drive the engine around. Right back to here. I screwed up. I didn't select it. Hold on. Beginning. Now I'll scroll around and I'll hit end. You highlight it, the button. Now when I push this button, it'll select the end, and I'm setting the loop. And again, I'm not measuring precisely, but this will give you the effect. Back there, and I turn it on. Now, you hear the sound? It's starting to disappear. It's getting quieter and quieter as it goes away. This is actual Doppler. When I say actual Doppler, at the dB level of that train and the speed of that train, it knows if you were a quarter inch to the foot man standing here, that's the distance in scale miles per hour where that train would get louder. And then you take, you hear it actually shifts, the Doppler shift of the sound and going away. Now turn the bell on, and you'll actually hear listen to the bell as it gets louder, but the shift of the sound. And then, if you want to get nice and fast, and what you can do is you can set up, if you have a big layout, you can set up multiple engines and have certain engines be the maximum volume here, certain engines being on the other end, and then that way you're not hearing all the trains all rumble at the same time, and you're hearing engines pass you by as they would for a real train. So it's a really neat effect. Like I say, all the sounds do that, and when you have a small layout like this, it doesn't disappear all the way. So what you do is you turn the sound volume down, because then the dB level's down, and then it'll disappear faster. If you got a bigger layout, turn it up, and it'll actually disappear. It'll drive around your layout quiet, and only where you would hear that sound volume in distance coming towards you would you start to hear that. The only other thing I want to point out is, and like I said, this is software upgradable. And there is a mini-to-mini cable you'll need. You'll need the cable. You'll need to go to a computer store and get this cable that I talked about to plug into your computer. But also you'll need we sell a mini-to-mini cable. This mini-to-mini cable will do two things. One, you can hook it up to the audio source, to the headphone jacks in the cell phone or the CD player or whatever you're using into here. Or when you program it, you take this cable and you plug it into the protocast and the dispatch, and then that jumpers when the computer inside the box sees those two jumpers shorted out, then it'll allow you to upgrade. And that's so when you do an upgrade, you're going to definitely need one of these mini stereo, and they're stereo, so you can buy these at Radio Shack or we sell them to upgrade. Let's see, the only other thing is, and we'll have another, I'll do a thing tomorrow, there's a Wi-Fi box, and this Wi-Fi box, quickly, There will be one Wi-Fi box for every TIU that you have. So if you have most layouts, one TIU is enough. And remember, you got 4 independent 10-amp channels. It's 40 amps. It's a lot of trackage. You can actually put 2 pieces of track on one channel. So if you need one box, simply plug it into this TIU. Find it in your settings on your iPad or your iPhone or your Android phone or your Android pad. You find that box. It's the neat thing about our system. We wanted it to be, and we actually spent more money to go this way software-wise to make this system as easy plug and play for you guys as possible. There's 2 options with the Wi-Fi. One, you can have its own what we call MTH network. It's the MTH network. You do not need internet at your house. So when you're talking Wi-Fi and you're thinking, well, I don't even have internet at the house, I won't be able to use that. Not true. This thing will broadcast its own network. You can find it on the iPad or the Android pad or any kind of tablet. Find it on there, and you'll be able to start running your trains with the, and again, I'm not going to go through the whole program here, but you have a nice big speedometer, all color. Now your features, instead of your remote, you have name features that you can push, so it becomes a lot easier to run this way. Now, your remote that you have, you can still run the remote at the same time as this. It's not one or the other. You can run them both. You can still use the handheld remote, give this to the child, and you can keep the remote, or the other way around. So that's coming. And it'll, like I say, be available and all that. It's very simple, and all you need to do is buy one thing, and that's the box. And if you have the DCS system, buy the box. You can have the DCS system we made in year 2000, and this will still plug into that. So it's all backwards compatible, all thought about that way, simple to find and set up. It's not you don't have to hire a consultant to figure out what you need to buy for all the cables and everything for switches and all that. You have the AIU, TIU, and that app with that Wi-Fi box, and you're up running with the Wi-Fi. Also the remote. You can buy the DCS system is the remote and handheld. That's what we call our standard DCS system. You can buy individual extra TIUs, you can buy extra remotes, and you can buy AIUs to hook them up. Any questions on it?
2 questions on your cable that you showed to the computer. My DCS is about 6 to 8 years old. Do you have that separate thing with multiple prongs, and then the USB port on it you showed in a short
Yeah, the short one, this is a serial connector with the RS-230. You can buy these at Radio Shack, you buy them online. I was at the TCA Museum yesterday, and I was talking about it, and the guy flipped up Amazon, found this cable, and bought 3 of them right there to get ready for his Wi-Fi box. But this is also for programming. You can use this RS-232 to plug in there. And then they also have these RS-232s on both sides. If you have an old computer that has the RS-232 as your COM port rather than the new USB. If you got a new laptop that doesn't have a COM port, you'll need to buy one of these converter cables.
So it's not unique to you?
No, this is bought at Radio Shack, any computer store. These are, for us to make one of these, it'd be ridiculous because they make these in such volume, they're cheaper out there.
Second question on your, which button were you pushing to check the voltage on the track as you went around?
It's in one of the features of each engine where you went into the menu and more, and you'll see voltage. It'll say voltage, and you select that, and wherever the train's at, and you can drive the train around and stop it at each section of the track, and you can measure the voltage. It's a great feature. You know, it tells you the track's dirty.
You mentioned the iPad. Would it be also available, the app for an iPhone?
Oh yeah, it's iPhone, iPad, Android phone, Android pad, everything out there. You know, our system's not just ISO Apple like our competitor, it's everything.
Yeah, I have the older DCS, I bought a couple of years ago, and I have PS2 engines 2.0. Did you say that you could upload new code into an engine, also newer code into a PS2.0 engine?
Yeah, another PS2 engine, you can change the sound file, or than PS3. PS3 has more memory, so the sound files are bigger. So they won't fit in the PS2 engines, but a PS2 to PS2, that's okay. Or PS3 to PS3 with the same size memory. The same size memory, those files, and it'll say that what file on there, what size file it is.
Software upgrade. Is there a charge for the software?
No, software upgrade has never been a charge. It's always been free. Come out with a new feature. We came out, for instance, with the Coors Light set, and you needed to talk to the car, so we had a new software. I think we're at 4.22, something like that. And so it's gradually gone up. So as new features come in the train, new software. When this app comes out to talk to this box, we'll have to have a new software upgrade. You upgrade it, and then you can plug in that box. So, but it's free. These are the same. I mean, we've been making these. The only difference is that the newest ones right now have US. This one doesn't. The one on the layout has a USB port on it because the computers are now going away from the RS-232, and it just he doesn't have to buy. You can still buy this adapter cable, one on both sides. So it also still has the RS-232, even on the new ones, but it has the USB port on it. So that's the difference. But other than that, it's been the same throughout. So if you buy this today, you're buying the same thing we've made since 2000. And we really, took a lot of time and thought and made this thing so it's upgradable, so that the guy who bought it in 2000, you don't have to buy all new hardware every time it comes out. So it's yeah. And they're fine. The TIU I have on my layout is from back then, the earlier ones, and it's the same thing. And same with the remote. The remote hasn't changed. Now, we were talking about making a color remote with touch screen. Lionel came out with their touch screen legacy system, and so we're thinking, well, let's do a color screen, bigger screen, all that. And then, obviously, the Wi-Fi with the app, and someone said, well, you're still going to do yesterday at the museum, you're still going to do the remote color screen? Why? This is high definition color. All the engineering that Apple put into this thing, I can't build a better remote than this.
I got one question. I have a Mac system, so in order to upgrade my PC last time, I had to find someone who had a PC system to do it. Are you visioning when you can actually do upgrades, or are we still stuck with having more PCs?
Yeah, it would cost a lot of money for us to go that way. And the question was, he has a Mac computer, and you need Windows to do it. Go to the library, borrow friends, and there's a lot of people out there. But the cost to do it, we'd rather spend. By the way, with this going to this iPad, and once you run it that way, I have always said for the last 14 years since we came out with this, there is no better way to run a train than with this. Now, we just got one, and this is the better way. When I say better way, it's more user friendly. The graphics on it, everything about it is much better. So, it's simple to use. We pride ourselves in the fact that it's simple to hook up and also very intuitive. That when you see pictures of it, it'll do everything. It switches now you have icons for doing that. Here it says you need to know SW is for your switches. There is a picture of the switch. So there's a lot of cool things you can do. You can take this iPad and take 2 fingers down and switch to forward direction. 3 fingers down and switches to reverse direction. So even if you're not looking at the thing to push the buttons, you can just know that 3 fingers will throw it. And that engine, whoa, it's going too fast. I'm going to go reverse. You can throw it down and change the direction that way. So there's a lot of things and a lot of other things because of the speed. This thing now is 150 times communicating to TIU faster than this. And so there's a lot with speed. We're in the HO business, and the HO is DCC. And I learned one thing with that DCC. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with DCC, but you get started in it, and then they start changing the CVs and the speed tables, and I even to try to read a 200-page manual, I just can't do it. It's not fun for me. So I learned that there's a very small percentage of people in HO that's actually in the DCC and really using it more than just talking to the engine and changing the speed, because it's too complicated. And so With this, we want it to be the same way. We want it to be simple, easy to use. I think I know a lot of it. Been in the training business for a long time. I picked up Lionel's cattle and went in the back to their new system to try to figure out what you need. And do I need this box and this box and this box? I don't know. I mean, I read it because I want to understand it. I need to understand it, but it's in DCC I can get to a certain level, and that of all the different boxes, I want one box, plug into your system, and you're up and playing. You want to play with trains, not set it all up. Any other questions? Everybody go out and buy a DCS system if they can find one. We're out of stock right now. They'll be out in about a month. Get that set up. Like say, you'll once you run trains this way, you'll never go back.
Will you continue to make your system, will your handheld unit still be made with it?
Yes.
Or will it discontinue?
We're going to continue to make it with the handheld. You can buy the TIU separately. We're not going to force you to buy a handheld, but the system itself you can buy it as a package with the remote, or you can buy handheld separately. Yes, we're going to still do the handheld. I mean, there are a lot of people that don't have an iPad and they don't have a smartphone, and it's hard to believe, but there are a lot of people that don't. And so you can buy the remote and still get all those features I demonstrated to you. And at some point, you will. My father was never into technology, and I got him an iPad for Christmas one time, and he just plays with that thing, all the time. I mean, these things are really neat.
Mike, when did you say that's going to be available for the iPad?
First quarter of 2015. S-gauge engines will have the same system. Look, the DCS system, the proto-sound 2, proto-sound out, proto-sound 3, is in our HO, S-gauge, O-gauge, G-gauge, standard gauge, everything. And that means, literally, the only difference is AC or DC power. HO is DC power, but you can run our trains on DC. So you can put DC through here, and with the handheld, talking to one TIU or two TIUs, run your HO trains, flip over to the engine of the O gauge, the standard gauge, the G gauge, the S gauge, and run them all in the same layout. They're all the same system. And we believe in this system to get people involved. And once, like I say, running trains like this with all these features, our starter sets, all of our starter sets, besides the few locos out, the majority of all the starter sets have, every one comes available with PS3, is so that the beginner, that engine is never outdated. If he moves up and migrates to this system, the first engine he got with the starter set is still one of his engines on his roster, and it's not outdated. So, we really, we believe in this system. We've had it now, it's been out for 14 years, all the bugs are out, and the software keeps coming, and you'll be able to get that. So it's like I say, once you run trains that way, you're not going back. The S-gauge engines will start shipping around April. They're late because of the sound board. And you notice we got a 44-ton switcher on the new catalog. It's always been the #1 engine requested because it came in so many road names. So there's a road name for everybody. The problem has been is to get a sound, the digital control, operating couplers all into that engine. I'd like to have gotten smoke, but there was just no room in it. I mean, it's a tiny engine. So with S-gauge, a lot of people, why are you going to the S-gauge now? Well, what it's done in the HO gauge is we've shrunk down the boards, and we needed to shrink it down. We couldn't use the HO board because there's not enough power requirements. The HO a lot less power. So now we got an in-between board really developed for the S-gauge market. That's been the delay, getting it shrunk down, getting everything to pass. We got it now pass every board. If we want to sell it in Europe for what it's called EMI, California will go that way next, and then the rest of the U.S. So we're getting all our boards to pass that standard, and that's what the delay has been. Obviously, we bought the tools from S-Helper. The engines are there, but we just need to get the electronics. And I think we want our electronics. We don't want to start selling engines without it. We'll start from the ground. The people who get into our S-gauge will have that. And by the way, all proto-sound 3 engines you can run on conventional control. You can run on conventional DC. You can run it on DCS. You can run them on DCC. So if you're an HO guy and got a DCC system, our engines have DCC because it's just software at this point. We did develop that for the HO marketplace. We put it in everything. So now we have standard gauge that run on DCC, G gauge, S-Gauge will run on DCC, and there's a group in the S-Gauge market who runs DCC, so we're already there because of our involvement in the HO business.
Let's summarize one more time. When this becomes available on the tablet, what exactly will you need to be able to run the trains?
You need the TIU. The question is, what do you need to run the trains when the app, which you download from the the Apple Store, you download that onto your phone. You'll need the TIU, and you'll need that box. It won't be a clear, that we just have it clear so we can work on it. It'll be a black box that says MTH with relay antenna, and you plug that into either this port or the USB port, and that's it. And you got your iPhone. As I tell hobby shops, when you have this, the guy walks in and you see their phone or he's talking on his phone, you tell him, hey, go find my network in my store. And he'll find it, and right now we'll come up with some name of the network. Right now it just says RR Bridge on there, but you come up the MTH network or whatever it is, and you find that, and then they will download the app in the store on the Apple thing, download the app, and he can start running the trains on the store layout. Now, you're going in to buy a starter set. You don't know which one to buy, this one or this one. And the kid's got his iPhone, he loads that train on there, and now he's controlling the train on the store layout. He's buying that one because it's on his phone. So I think it's a great selling tool. It's going to get young people into this hobby. We all talk about how to do that. They're living on these phones, they're living on these pads. It's going, now it's an app that they can download, and now they will enjoy running dad's or grandpa's trains because it's their phone controller. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of the show.